Right, I am 2,000 runs into this. A couple of these runs were done last year. Last 30 days, I have done nearly 2,000 runs. So 2,000, what is that? I can't do math right now. My brain is fucking fried. So at 33 hours, the past 30 days ish. Today's the 10th. So this was 30 days ago. All right. Um, last 14 days, 1,000 of these was last 2 weeks. Okay, so total lifetime on a linear graph, I've gained 18%. I think the last time I went over this, I when I was at 1,000, I gained 15% over a linear timeline, and yeah, I gained like 19% or something like that. It was like insane, right? But those were all beginner gains. And then over the past 1,000 runs, like this was actually way harder than the initial 1,000 runs. And my like total growth plateaued to 18%. In fact, I think I got like, in terms of like linear growth, I got worse. If you look at the last 7 days, I only gained 66% in terms of total average. Um, that's 534 runs. And over the past 1,000, I've only gained five, right? So I haven't actually, like, there's a huge part of this where it got significantly worse. I think there's like a couple of reasons why this happened that I can speculate on. I'm coaching a team in North America, 100 Thieves. I'm in Cambodia, and like the dissonant sleep schedule has been a little fucked, to be honest with you. Also, I had like really bad pneumonia, um, like a lung infection, so that didn't help. But also just like personal stuff as well. Okay, there are a couple of I'm gonna keep going until I literally double my original average score, which is like 320. I want to get to 640. You know what I mean? The current highest score is by Vexen, which is 653. So, on average, if you take a look at my current average, right, which is 384, and my highest is 457. So 457 divided by 384, that's 457 7 divided by 384. I need to slow down. 19. So I'm gonna, sorry, 384 divided by 457. So 84% times, let's say that's like the same, 653. That means Vexen's average is around like 550. It's probably higher. I bet you it's like 570. It might even be like 600 or something like that. But I get, my guess is like around there. I want my average to be around Vexen's like personal best. I don't know how long it's gonna take. I thought it was gonna take a couple of months, but I need to double or even triple that amount. It might take me like all year. Um, at this rate, if I do 3,000 a month. I thought I was going to be doing this like 3, 4 hours a day, but I have other things, other responsibilities I need to take care of. Okay, so there were a couple of things that I wanted to point out. Um, if we look at a run of, we'll just find like any ground plaza right now. Ground plaza, FS, no UFO. Okay. So if we look at ground plaza FS, no UFO, I don't care. All right. So motion clarity, nice. Okay. So let's just take this. Here are a couple of lessons that I've learned about 2,000 runs into it. This middle part, like basically hold the first tip is hold yourself to a higher standard. a lot of people will focus on edge tracking, right? So if the bot's going left, you kind of hold on to like this edge, right? And if it's going right, you kind of try to keep your mouse on this edge. And it's mostly like score maxing. I like Siva's version of just like trying to stay in the center, but I actually think of like a thinner version of the bot. I like imagine a thinner version of the bot, and I try to stay in there. Like the times where I try to hold myself to that higher standard of something thinner, then I usually tend to be very, very consistent. Oh, in terms, so that's the first tip. The second tip I want to bring up is right hand. So if we look at a right hand here, like I know this seems like obvious in hindsight and like kind of like stupid to point out, but um, okay, so there's like an like incongruity with ground um scenarios and uh the biomechanics of your hand, right? So I'm right-handed. Ground scenarios is literally just XY axis, like an oversimplification going left. Sorry, X axis is just going left and right. Or is that Y axis? I always forget. So it's just going left and right. Basically, it's only going on one plane, on one axis. Obviously, you can make an argument that if it gets closer, it kind of gets a little bendy because of the camera. It goes on the other axes, but generally it's like left and right. Okay. But the thing is, though, your arm, here's your shoulder, here's your elbow, here's your hand, right? It's not linear, right? I've talked about this in other videos before. So that's something you kind of have to compromise. Is it's just something you have to think about and kind of feel about because you're gonna like use your own technique depending on the height of the desk and your hand to adjust your mouse in a specific way that matches this movement, whatever it is. It could be a short strafe, long strafe, whatever, and whatever your sense is, right? Then the other thing I want to point out is I've been focusing on different parts of my hand to um, for different bot movements because ground FS no UFO has two bot movements. It's basically like here's me, right? Here's like the bot, there's like a long distance bot A, and then there's like a short distance bot B. The long distance one, it's pretty easy to focus on fingertip movements, right? But then also I also try to focus on palm movements or even arm movements or like shoulder movements because like 80% of the time you're probably going to be doing this, but like occasionally I'll focus on a run entirely just on my wrist or palm or um elbow movement. Okay, so in terms of body, this is the next part. In terms of like biomechanics, people always talk about like fingertip movement and like wrist and like elbow, like using that as like your structure. The other thing I want to point out is that your hand is asymmetric, right? So you don't it's not like this, right? Like I have an ergo mouse currently, which is the GPX Superlight 2 Dex version, and it's ergonomic, right? So it's basically like the same mouse on both sides, right? But that's not the same thing. Like it doesn't really actually match the mechanics of your hand. Like why is that relevant? Obviously, you're just going to move your mouse the exact same way, however you want to. But in terms of like the fingertip, wrist, elbow, shoulder, uh, heuristic to think about your movements and stuff, or like system that like people always mentioned. People never mention like your thumb or like the thumb side of your hand or like the pinky side of your hand, depending on if you do claw or palm or whatever. I kind of do a mix of whatever feels right in that moment and wherever my hand is placed uh, on the desk. But okay, why am I bringing this up? Because there are times where I'm going to be thinking about and feeling and focusing on like the pressure of my mouse against this part of my hand on the inside, not the out, like not on top, but like literally on the inside, like the palm side of it. So like this right here. right? So I try like I think about like the palm side of my hand. Let's open that up. Excuse me. And um I think this is like not really discussed enough, at least publicly. I think people do it privately. And then also like alternating between like these two. Like I've really been focusing a lot on like, or at least becoming more aware on like this feeling, right? And what that feels like, the pressure, the tension management, and all that stuff. Um, yeah, like so I've just been thinking about the asymmetry of the hand and how that like relates to, you know, how symmetrical I guess the ground plaza is. Okay, the other tip I wanted to talk about was I know this seems like an oversimplification and seems really, really obvious in hindsight, but if there's short strafes, right? If there are short strafes, you're like overshooting a lot, right? Just move your mouse less. And what I mean by that is like your distance travel time like might be A, but try to get it to B, right? So like if you're really bad at reactivity, which I am, right? What I've found over the past thousand runs, and it's something I always knew about, but I never really focused on it, is people call it under tracking, which is different than edge tracking. But basically, you just move your mouse less, and that means like less travel time, right, across the screen. So I visualize. So if I find myself overshooting a lot, I'll just like cut this in half, right? The next time, like I'm dealing with a short strafe, and then same thing with long strafes as well. So if the bot's this close, right, and it's doing like long strafes, a lot of times I'll overshoot, and then my aim is shakier, right, and so it's not as smooth, right? And a lot of that comes down to if you move your mouse this much, cut it in half. Sometimes you cut it into a quarter, right? This is like 50%, like cut it to 25% sometimes. You might like be this is why VOD reviews are important. I haven't really VOD reviewed over the past thousand, you know. I just haven't really bothered. I know I'm supposed to, but fuck it. The but yeah, I've uh, uh if you find yourself like having really shaky aim, a lot of it comes down to just like cut your distance travel time in half into like 25%. And like if you watch this, right? Look how like little he's moving his mouse, right? um I haven't experimented. Was the next thing I want to talk about was like I haven't really experimented with changing my mouse sensitivity at all, like Corporate Surf has, and I feel like that's a more optimal way of doing it. But there's a stubborn part of me that wants to stay on 35 cm. I'm currently on 35 cm. I do 35 cm on everything. Why? Because I'm super stubborn. Like a couple of years ago, when I first switched to mouse and key, Cora Bazesti or Tom, uh, everybody kind of knows him as Tom. I asked him like, "Hey, what's your sense?" He's like, "35 cm. I use it to train everything." Right? I'm like, "All right, cool." And then I just stuck with that. I know it's probably more optimal to um, try other sensitivities and stuff, but some part of me is just like, "Fuck it, man!" Like I just want to get like better. You know what I mean? Like I don't give a fuck about optimal. I'm gonna be honest with you. I genuinely don't give a fuck about optimal. I just care about like improving. You know, I don't care about like optimizing my growth or anything like that. It's cool, but some part of me is like I like the journey. Like to me, this is a hobby. There's no race. Like this is a hobby I'm gonna have for the rest of my life, most likely. As long as computers are relevant and they exist. So I'm probably just going to keep doing this and just like grind it out. Like I like seeing like some people like seeing their numbers go up, like these numbers go up, right? Like their accuracy and their score improving. That's all well and cool. I genuinely like seeing this number go up. Like this is an output metric, right? And people love seeing that. And that's cool, right? But I feel like it's much healthier for me long term for me to focus on the input metric, right? So that's on the mechanical side. There were a couple other things I wanted to talk about, but I'm kind of just freeballing this video. The psychological side is this, if you notice here, excuse me, this is like the pit of despair. It's just like downward spiral here, you know. And if you look at the past 14 days, like like anytime it was, look how low these lows are, dude. Like this low is so low. I was so sad like on a lot of these lows, right? But over the past, I'd say 3, 4 days, I've been hitting like really consistent highs. I've gotten multiple PVs, some of them offline because like my power went out. Like I got this one offline when the power went out. But look how many like I've been consistently breaking 400. Um, like to me, this is like a pretty good marker of my growth. I've been consistently breaking 400 a lot over the past, let's say, 3 days. Right. Like, look, technically, my score has gone down over the past 3 days. Right. I've technically gotten worse, but look at that. Like, all of these are above 400. And like, this is my first time, like, really consistently getting over 400. Um, like a lot. Right. Breaks are nice. I've talked about them before. Um, I don't really have a hard rule. I thought I'd have I would have a better understanding of, um, if I do 15-minute breaks, 10 minute, like, sorry, not 15-minute breaks, 15-minute runs or 20-minute runs. I'm still experimenting with that. I think it says more about me internally as a human being, honestly, rather than, and like my poor time management rather than, um, like what is optimal or not, or what is. So yeah, like that's the main thing I've kind of walked away from this, like psychologically, is like I do not give a fuck about optimal. I want to see that like number go up, and I want to know that I like did this for like 6,000 runs or 10,000 runs or 12,000 runs, and I just put in the work. Obviously, like if you put in that kind of work, you're going to improve no matter what. Like it was like a pretty fucking depressing to like these last like 500 runs, or at least last like 14, like these last 2 weeks, these last 1,000 runs was super super depressing, because I only gained like 5% in score and like 6% in like total accuracy. But then in hindsight, that's a fucking lot to grow in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like if you look at it over, you know like a 1 year period of time, or even 5 years period of time, that's a huge amount of growth. Right. Let's compare that to Smooth Thin Track V1, which I probably played more than anything else. Right. Um, why isn't this showing the stats? Do I have to go inside of it? Yeah, I think I do. I've done this nearly 1,000 times, right? But my total growth on this is like 42, right? But this is like over years, right? Like this is like, in my opinion, just probably like the most optimal, but I think these are like, a lot of it is like beginner gains. Um Also, I'm a smoothness main. Yeah, I don't really think I have anything else to say. Oh, I do have like a long-term goal for this, by the way. I want to play ground FS, uh no UFO Plaza, basically until I get a world record, right? Hopefully Vexen doesn't try to push it, or hopefully he does. I don't fucking know. But basically, like it's either I break a world record, you know. So either do I get a world record, which is option A, or B, I double my average. You know, how cool is that to be twice as good at something as you were before, right? And then this is like my first goal, right? My second goal, a lot of people, when they get to a certain level, they break off and do other similar um scenarios, right? They either like, it's tempting to go and like and get other scores in, like push other scores in, like close FS than Evo V2, or KTN close FS hard, or RTH hard, which is like very similar. It's basically like the two bots of ground FS. Or they do air scenarios, or they go, or they push or they could do a completely different set of scenarios entirely, right? But me, what I want to do is I made a harder version of this, which is like private, right? Um, and it is 15% faster and 15% smaller, right? So it's technically 30% harder than the normal one that I have, right? And I want to double that score, right? I might make this like 50% harder, total. But I want to basically get my like whatever score I get here, either 650 or 700 or 750 on ground Plaza FS no UFO. And on the L2 level 2 version, right? I want to get that same score on the level 2 version and then make a level 3 version that's 30% harder or whatever more difficulty it is, and then match that same score again. Basically, I want to widen the gap between me and like everybody else just on this scenario. There's a couple of reasons. One, I think that's cool. And then two, I think there's just um, I think aim training still is in its infancy, and there's a couple of people who are really really pushing like one scenario to its limit. Like QQ Peepo has been pushing Ground Plaza, Close FS, like we're close fast race invincible to its kind of limit and past this limit now. And like so we have new possibilities for that. And then the third really cool reason is I think there's like just shit you will learn, right? Excuse me, by being four times as good as you originally were, you know. And then I think that kind of skill will transfer to a lot of things that I never thought you would, you know. So and I want to basically like my goal is like let's say you get to like celestial level, right? Like I my long-term vision is to get to like current celestial, whatever future celestial is, I don't know, right? Or basically get Aimbeast, like max out my Aimbeast rankings, get like Aimbeast Grandmaster, right? If I can get Grandmaster and Aimbeast, I'm gonna treat Grandmaster Aimbeast as if it's gold or bronze, as if it's bronze all over again, and then just start all over again with harder scenarios, or different variants. That's my ultimate goal, and then see if I can push that even more. But I don't know. Those are just my ramblings. I'm gonna end this because I have scrims to prepare for soon. Hope you guys got some value out of it. I'll see you at the next 1000. I'm super fucking tired. Have a lovely day.